Hello, and thank you for seeking out information about the San Angelo District's Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal years 2021 through 2024. I'm John DeWitt, Director of Transportation Planning and Development for the San Angelo District, and I'll be walking you through this presentation. Let's start with the basics. First, the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, is a list of funded projects in the TxDOT district over the next 4 years. The TIP is fiscally constrained and includes highway construction projects as well as other multimodal elements such as public transportation and bike ped programs and projects. In some cases, it also conveys information about preliminary planning efforts in advance of some projects. The 25 TxDOT districts coordinate, develop, and submit the TIPs for their respective areas of the state. More on that in a minute, as do the 23 metropolitan planning organizations around the state. Once approved at the regional level, these 48 documents are combined to create the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP, required of TxDOT by FHWA to demonstrate fiscal constraint of their program over a 4-year period. The TIP is meant to show regional agreement on the need and priority of a transportation project, so all parties can be sure that they're making the best investment for their community. It is also expected to be consistent with the projects and objectives included in the regional long-range transportation plans to ensure that all parties are working toward the same goal. The key to a relevant TIP is public engagement, which is why you're here today. Your participation counts, and we appreciate it immensely. The TIP functions as a budget list for the district. As such, it is fiscally constrained. But typically, the demand for transportation improvements exceed the available funding, leading TxDOT, MPOs, and their partners to prioritize needs. The result is what you'll see in the TIP, with projects supported by different combinations of federal, state, and local funds. With that introduction, let's move on to discuss the project lists themselves. TxDOT San Angelo District is one of 25 statewide, shown in green on this slide. We're the second largest district, covering over 19,000 square miles in our 15 counties. Zooming in for a closer look, you can see our area in more detail. We maintain and operate 3,249 centerline miles of highway in our 15 counties, which represents roughly 4% of the highway network in Texas. That speaks to the rural nature of this district. But what becomes evident as you look at our TIP listings is that we have a wide variety of challenges in providing the safe and efficient system you expect of us. You'll see major rehab projects in our western counties most affected by energy sector activity, projects that add Super 2 passing lanes throughout our district, and major projects that will add needed capacity within the San Angelo MPO, to name a few. You'll also notice a major preventive maintenance component of our program each year, as well as a number of off-system bridge replacements. For convenience and clarity, I'll provide information about both the rural TIP compiled by us at the San Angelo District, as well as projects that are listed in the San Angelo MPO's TIP. So with that preface, let's get to the TIP itself. The San Angelo District has 23 projects scheduled to go to contract in our fiscal year 2021. Those projects are estimated at an anticipated value of $116 million as tabulated on this slide. 20 of them are in the rural area, and 3 more of them are in the San Angelo Metropolitan Planning Organization area, essentially the city of San Angelo, and that'd be shown on the next slide. And we'll follow that paired template as we work our way through the 4 years of the TIP. I won't mention every project in detail on this listing, but I would like to touch upon a few of them. The first one I'll talk about here is index number 1, which is a project on US 67 through Arion County, the entire length of it. And it's an ACP project. It's an armoring project that's complementary to the Super 2 job we just completed on that section of US 67 within the last couple of years. And the goal of this project is to complete the pavement structure on US 67 to its full structural capacity. It's an armoring project, and that's the terminology we use for it, and it's funded out of the energy sector component of our district discretionary program. It's valued at just over $21 million and scheduled to go contract in October of 2020. The next group of projects I'll mention to you are about a third of the way down the listing, and they're scattered all over the district, which is why they don't have index numbers on the rural map shown here. It's our seal coat program for this year, and we have a major seal coat program every year, and it's the centerpiece of our preventive maintenance effort necessary to maintain the integrity of our roadway system. Valued this year just over $20 million, which represents roughly half of our annual allocation for preventive maintenance and rehab. Goes to contract in December of 20, and then there's a companion striping program that goes to contract in January of 21. Next, I'll point out that we have two super tube projects going to contract in fiscal 21. One, although not captured on the map, and therefore doesn't have an index number, is about 2/3 of the way down the listing. It's in Tom Green County on US 277 and begins just north of US 67 and goes northward to the Coke County line. The second one is in Edwards County, just south of Sonora. And you'll see it as index number 8 on this map. And is scheduled to go to contract in June of this year. Next, I'll mention to you index number 4, which is an overlay project on Interstate 10 in Sutton County, going to contract in January of 21, valued at just over $15 million. Next, I'll mention to you index number 10, which is in Reagan County. It's a continuation of the total reconstruction effort we're putting forth on US 137, a major energy sector corridor, State Highway 137, a major energy sector corridor through the heart of the Permian and in our district. It too is funded through the energy sector component of our district discretionary program. It's set to go to contract in July of 21 at an estimated value of almost $13 million. The last project I'll mention in our rural program for 21 is shown as index number 12 in the rural area. It also has, as you'll see, a component in our urban area too, and we'll talk about that and show it in more detail in a moment. But collectively, it combines to project you'll see going to contract in July of 21, which is the installation of cable barrier on US 87, in this case in Sterling County, as well as Loop 306 here in San Angelo. It's funded through our Road to Zero portion of our Category 8 safety program, and anticipated value of that project is $3 million, as shown here. Now we'll look briefly at the three projects within the urban area within the city of San Angelo for fiscal 2021. The first, index number 2, is the repair of the Bell Street overpass on Houston Hart, US 67, that was damaged on Mother's Day of 2019. You may recall that an overheight load impacted the bridge structure, resulted in significant damage to it, and we had to remove the outside beam that was impacted by the windmill component. And we tried to bring this project to contract in fiscal 20, and the bids came in unacceptably high for it. We took it back, rethought it, and we're putting it back out for contract, as you see here, in October of 20. With the hopes that the revised plan package will attract more competitive bids. Number 7 is funded through our safety program, Category 8, and it's further at-grade safety improvements at the intersection of US 277 with Canal Road. And finally, as we alluded to on the rural portion of our program. There's a companion project for the Sterling County Cable Barrier job. This is on Loop 306 on the east side of town. They're again to install cable barrier in the median of Loop 306. Next, we'll look at projects scheduled for our fiscal year 2022. There's 15 of them at an anticipated total value of $122 million as shown here. 14 of those projects are in the rural area and one is in the San Angelo MPO area in the city of San Angelo. I'll mention and speak to in more detail 4 of the rural projects. The first, index number 2, on Interstate 10 in Sutton County, is a continuation of our rehabilitation program for Interstate 10. Scheduled to go to contract in January of 22 at an anticipated value of $9.5 million. The next that I'll mention to you is index number 3, which is RM33 in Glasscock and Reagan County. RM33, much like State Highway 137, is a vital energy sector corridor in the Permian Basin and in our district. And as such, it's been heavily impacted and payment conditions have deteriorated to the point where we now have scheduled this project scheduled at $36 million to do full depth rehabilitation of the pavement structure. It's scheduled to go to contract in April of 2022. Next, I'll point out to you index number 6, which is an ACP overlay on US 87 just south of Wall, going to the Concho County line, a continuation of our work on US 87. And we're playing catch up there with energy sector traffic that may not be as evident to you unless you are familiar with the area. You may recall that we had heavy sand truck traffic on US 87 for years, and we've done projects on 87 especially in this area, and this is a continuation of that to regain structural integrity of that section of US 87. So this project is a continuation of it. Scheduled to go to contract in June of 22 at a value of $9 million. Finally, index number 7 is another Super Tube project on US 277. This is in Coke County on US 277, also going north of the Y in Coke County up State Highway 70. Scheduled to go to contract in June of 2022 at a value of just over $14 million. We have one project scheduled to go to contract in fiscal 22 within the city of San Angelo in the urban boundary, and that's the widening and safety improvement of State Loop 378 or Old Christoval Road. We will be widening Old Christoval Road out to 4 lanes from its current 2-lane configuration and also add a center left turn lane. We'll reconstruct State Loop 378 with concrete pavement and realign its southern terminus with Fairview School Road and the overpass over US 87. Scheduled to go to contract in May of 2022 at an anticipated value of $14.5 million. Moving now to our fiscal year 2023, we currently have 13 projects scheduled at a total anticipated value of $130 million. 10 of those projects are in the rural area, while 3 are within the city limits of San Angelo and within the urban boundaries. I'd like to speak to 4 projects in the urban area, and they're a group of projects, all Super Tube projects. And they're represented by index numbers 3, 4, 5, and 8 on the map and in the listing. Those are 2 Super Tube projects in Concho County, 1 on US 277 in Coke County, and 1 that begins the process of adding Super Tube passing lanes on State Highway 137 in Glasscock and Reagan counties. It's important to note that projects 3 and 4 are currently supported by our preventive maintenance and rehabilitation program. That allows us to initiate the plan development process, which we have, and get these plans ready to go for fiscal 23 letting. However, we're targeting other funding resources for these jobs to ultimately bring them to contract, and working within the framework of the UTP to try to achieve that before the letting dates shown here. If we're successful in doing that, that will allow us to free up the preventive maintenance rehab funds shown here as being attached to them to feed back into our program across the district, and that's our strategy on those. Similarly, project number 8, the proposed Super 2 project on State Highway 137 in Reagan and Glasscock County, is currently supported by a develop authority, which in a similar manner positions us to work within the framework of the UTP to fund it with rural connectivity or some other statewide fiscal resource that we don't have access to at this point. Looking now at the 3 projects within the San Angelo metropolitan area boundaries for fiscal 23. The first one, index number 2, is on FM 2288. We're working with the NPO to expand FM 2288 from where the current 4-lane section drops off in the Highland Range area, about halfway to Grape Creek to the north. That project is scheduled for an April 23 letting at an anticipated value at this point of $7.6 million. The next project, shown as index number 6 on this map, is a retrofit of the existing bridge rail on the northbound lane of Bryant Boulevard, US 87, right in the heart of town. Scheduled to go to contract in May of 23 at a value of $300,000. And then finally, and probably most significantly, index number 7 continues the expansion of the San Angelo relief route out to the desired freeway configuration. As shown, it's scheduled to go to contract in May of 23 at an anticipated value of right at $40 million. And we're working on project development for that now, as you might imagine, and as you probably know if you've been following our public involvement for that project. What I need to point out to you here is the construct of the funding package for it at this point. Only includes $3.6 million of urban connectivity money that's actual construction funding that's dedicated to it now. And the rest, the $36.4 million remainder, is supported by Develop Authority. Keep in mind that Develop Authority is not construction funding. It allows us to do the plan work we need to do on these projects in advance of the letting date, but unless and until we secure another $36 million of true construction funding for it, we may get to this point and not be able to bring it to contract, but at least we will have the project ready to go and be more competitive to continue to seek construction funding for it. So stay tuned for that, and if you have any questions about that project, or certainly any project, please get in contact with us. Finally, now looking at the 4th year of the TIP, fiscal year 2024, we currently have 9 projects scheduled, all in the rural area, at an anticipated value of $49 million. I'd like to give you a little perspective on that total amount versus what you've seen in the previous 3 years. Obviously, it looks like a significant drop-off, and it is, and it would be if it remained at this point. The way our funding mechanisms work, it's not unusual to see a drop-off in the 4th year of the TIP. However, by the time we get to fiscal 2024, we will have fiscal resources available to us that we can't utilize and support projects with at this point. The result of that is 2024 is likely to be much healthier than what we show here. And as a point of reference, I'll just speak to our current year, fiscal 20 that we're in, which is a record year for the San Angelo District we're bringing right at $200 million worth of projects to contract. Where 4 years ago, when I was discussing fiscal 20 as the fourth year, the outline year in the TIP that we were moving toward approval for at the time, we were discussing fiscal year 20 in terms of roughly a $60 million letting year for us. So you can see the multiplier there. I would fully expect the same to happen with 2024. That being said, I'll point out two projects to you here, indexes number 2 and number 3. 2 more Super 2 jobs, continuing our emphasis on gaining the safety improvements realized by Super 2 projects, one on US 67 in Runnels County, and one on US 83 in Runnels County, scheduled in March and April of 24 respectively. I'll make the same comment about those I did 2 of the Super 2 jobs in 23. At this point, they're supported by our preventive maintenance rehabilitation program that allows us to get off the ground and begin project development on them, which we have. It's our strategy and intent to hopefully fund those through some other means, probably rural connectivity, and we have 3 years to work that out and secure those funds. So that completes a rundown of the 4 years of the TIP, fiscal years 2021 through 2024. This slide shows a summary of that in a number of different ways. First, the table shows a breakdown by funding category in the UTP across the 4 years of the TIP. You can also see, looking a little further down the slide, that the TIP for 2021 through 2024 at this point shows $322 million plus of work in the rural areas and $66 million, almost $67 million in the urban area in San Angelo, totaling to a total program for 2021-2024 for the San Angelo District of $389,333,455. Now that you've seen a preview of our program for the next 4 years, we'd really like to hear from you. There's 3 ways to submit comments to us in support of this program. The first is to mail it directly to us at the address shown on this slide, Texas Department of Transportation, San Angelo, Texas. Attention, rural TIP, 4502 Knickerbocker Road, San Angelo, Texas, 76904. Any written comments you mail directly to us must be postmarked by July 8th. The second way to submit comments to us is directly to me via email at the address shown on this slide, john.dewitt@TxDOT.gov. And finally, you can submit comments to us online. Visit www.TxDOT.gov and search for San Angelo Rural TIP. Again, same rules apply. Comments must be postmarked or otherwise received by us by July 8th, 2020. You'll also be able to find this presentation and a PDF of the information in this presentation at this link. Again, search for San Angelo Rural TIP on our website. Please don't hesitate to call us at the San Angelo District Office with any questions you may have about the TIP or any of our projects or programs. You can call anytime at 325-944-1501, Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 to 5. Again, you've got my email address to communicate with us about the TIP or any other interest you might have in our projects and programs. We also encourage you to take a look at our social media platforms shown here. This concludes the presentation for the San Angelo District's fiscal year 2021 through 2024 Transportation Improvement Program. Thank you for your interest and the time you've taken to take a look at this today. Again, we invite your comments and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you and have a good evening.